West. It's the end of U.S. Highway 1 and the beginning of many unique fishing adventures.
That sun goes sliding across the water. Sailboats are out searching for a breeze.
You gotta love Key West. There are always some familiar faces and places to welcome you back. There's usually also something new, something you probably haven't seen. Some old, some new, and some a little blue. The same can be said of fishing in the Keys. I've trolled the deep blue Gulf Stream many times in search of dolphin, wahoo, and billfish. Closer to shore, I've long enjoyed jigging the reefs for grouper and snapper. There have been times when I've wondered, if I just had the right system, what kinds of fish could I catch jigging on the trolling grounds?
Deep jigging to me is 600 to 800 feet, sometimes even 1,000 feet of water. If you were to come down here and try to fish with monofilament fishing line in that kind of depth, it would be absolutely impossible to do. Monofilament fishing line, every 100 feet of line has about 20 feet of stretch to it. First of all, I don't even know if you could tell that you hit the bottom. You'd never be able to feel a strike or anything. You'd be pulling up and down and the jig would never even probably move at all.
Due to recent advances in small diameter braided line, it's now practical to work jigs on the bottom.
With some of these new gel spun polymer super braids that they're coming out with nowadays, it makes it all possible. But still, to get even into that deeper water, you're going to be wanting to use probably 8-pound test, 8 to 10-pound test, which has a super thin diameter.
Amazingly enough, even the diameter of 20-pound braid is too great to cut through water at this depth. It might be hard to believe, but even in 1,000 feet, there's still enough sunlight penetration for fish to find prey.
We might be blind when we go down there in that depth of water, but I think there's plenty of available light for those fish that are used to being down at that depth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I still fish my rigs as if, you know, you're fishing in, say, 200 feet of water, because I know those fish, they have eyeballs, so we know that they see.
Billy likes to use a 10 to 15 foot, 50-pound mono leader. He uses an Albright special knot to connect it to a bimini twisted loop in the braided main line.
The lures we like to use, some people like to use a diamond jig, but what I like to use is probably about a 9-ounce jig with a glowing rubber tail on it. One of my father's customers, Ron Glinsky, fishes out of North Carolina. His saying is, if it doesn't glow, it doesn't go. So I love to use those glowworms in a deeper water like that. The action that you're getting is as this goes up and down, this tail's just working away, swimming. I think that sells the strike every time.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is attach a ballyhoo on the end of that. And to keep it straight, I'm just gonna hook it right in the center of the top of the head. And I don't mind that he's dead. He's still fresh dead, so he's gonna be fine.
Billy, how long do you think it's gonna take to hit bottom here?
2 days.
Okay, here we go. 9-ounce jig, 600 feet of water, ultralight braided line. Let's time it. 10:32. Go.
Feel for bites or strikes on the way down.
Yeah, it'll just stop. The line will quit spooling up, and you gotta come tight quick.
The wahoos and the tuna. You get a lot of blackfin tunas doing this.
Yeah, that's cool. Not quite there yet. There I am.
Okay,
I
I'm
hit
down.
bottom. Almost 4 minutes. Now, Billy, would you like to just give this a nice little slow lift off the bottom and let it go back down?
My dad likes to call this, instead of deep water jigging, he likes to call it deep water pulling, because you're just swimming the lure up and down off of the bottom. Most of your strikes are going to come on the downstroke, and so you want to feel it on the way down. If it stops, reel down on it and get tight with it quick.
That's amazing. I can feel a jig bouncing on the bottom in 600 feet of water.
Isn't it?
That's unreal. What do you figure the bottom looks like down there?
You know, when we're looking at it on the bottom machine, there's some extreme ledges. I mean, there's 100-foot drops on it, and it's a pretty nasty bottom. We'll get run in from time to time, but I don't think it's very rocky down there. Whereas there's not a whole lot for the fish to run you into.
Yeah, I can't wait to try this in my home waters off Stewart. It's one of the interesting geological quirks of Florida, is that you find basically the same kinds of bottom just about around the state. It has to do with the ancient shorelines. But I know we've got structure like this in 600 feet of water off Stewart. I know there's little humps like this out there.
You know, I think there's a lot more area out there that you can do this in that needs to be exploited a little bit more. I think a lot more people have it in their backyard than they realize.
Yeah. Might be something to keep your eye on when you're not trolling for dolphin. If you got a high-powered sonar, if you mark a break or a hump out there,
Mark it on your GPS and try it one of those days.
Well, that's pretty much any day that I'll get a charter where we have to go out and troll out here. That's what I'm really doing, is looking around. You know, if I can find a weed line near the areas I want to look, I will. I'll definitely be out here looking for them while I'm trolling. And I mark it down every time, and I'll come back to it later and do this. And you can have some of your best days finding new spots like that.
And I guess a common problem that guys have when they're reef fishing close to a major port like Key West is the problem of, some guys used to call it loraning, where somebody would get your position on a private reef. And I guess out here they have no clue what you're doing, so they wouldn't bother to come up and check you out.
That's very true.
It's very important to put tension on the line when reeling in, to pack it tightly. If it's too loose, the braid is so thin that it can slip under the spool and cut itself when a fish strikes.
What you want to do while you're reeling up is a lot of people tend to, without a level line, they'll take their thumb and reel it back and forth real quick like this. And that's something that you don't want to do, because if a fish hits it and runs, the line has a tendency, once it's crossing each other, it kind of acts like a bandsaw and it can cut itself. What you want to do is just, as you're reeling up, just slowly go back and forth. That way you're not having line crossing other line that can cut itself.
You got a fish?
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. Now 600 feet down, can you guess what it is?
I can tell you which three fish I think it is. It's either a snowy grouper, a gray tile, or a rosefish. I'm gonna probably say that it's a snowy grouper. The tile fish really have a big tail beat to them. I think this one's a snowy grouper.
You need to keep pulling steadily once you're hooked up. The heavy jig exerts a lot of downward pressure that may cause it to dislodge from the fish's mouth.
See how my line's scoping out now?
Yeah.
The bait's getting close, or the fish is getting close. They always scope out right before you get them in. See it out there?
Oh, yeah.
Look. Yeah, get the
Big grouper. It's a nice one.
Ah, sure is.
That's a stud, dude. Look at that thing. What a fish, man. Check it out, dude. Sweet.
That's deep water jigging, Jeff. That's a snowy grouper right there.
You
can tell by the white spots on them.
Look at the size of the eyeballs on that guy.
600 and some odd feet of water.
That's outrageous.
We actually caught this one on the back side of the hump there, on the downside of it.
Yeah.
Excellent eating.
When we come back, what else can we pull up from the ocean floor? More deep, deep jigging when Florida Sportsman Television comes right back. Florida Sportsman Television is brought to you by Mercury, #1 on the water, Berkeley Big Game, fighting power for trophy fishing, Shakespeare Fishing Tackle Company, America Goes Fishing with